Oh my God. What's going on, everybody? Gary here with another review and my thoughts video. Today we're focusing on the Redcat Shredder. Now this is a 1/6 scale 4-wheel drive monster truck or truggy, big old wing back here, and you can get this for about 360 bucks anywhere. It does come 4S capable, and you know, it's quite a truck for the price, I will say. So let's just kind of get into this thing. So initially when I got this, it's just because, you know, I wanted to get this on the channel. I wanted to get the word out about this thing so that, you know, people like you guys watching right now know what to expect when you get this truck. And, you know, for the price point for a 1/6 scale 4-wheel drive monster truck, $360 is not bad at all, especially considering the fact that it does come brushless and just the sheer size of this thing. Now this thing is you know, in the realm of the Sin Colossus. The Sin Colossus is a different design. It's got much bigger tires on it. It's got a twin vertical plate chassis instead of having the flat pan chassis like this thing. But size-wise, they are pretty comparable. The Sin would be taller, but this thing is just as long, just as wide, and is just all around, you know, a good, big size truck. Now, unfortunately, I guess fortunately or unfortunately, I haven't had huge crashes with this truck. And that's not due to not like bashing it hard and stuff like that. It's just that this thing flies so nice. This is one of the best jumping RCs that I've ever owned or tested. As far as like being able to control it in the air, how it flies through the air and everything, I mean, this thing is top notch when it comes to flying. The balance is really, really good. The setup is pretty good. And it just flies nice. It's not like unpredictable in the air, which is a huge plus, especially considering the size of this thing. Because if things went wrong in a jump, you could, you know, it would go really wrong because it is pretty heavy. It's light for the size it is, but it is a pretty heavy truck, and you know, when it's up in the air, you could have some disaster go on. That's not to say it lands well. The suspension is one of the components that I am not impressed with. The shocks are the exact same shocks that they run in the 8th scale Terremoto V2. Exact same shocks. They look nice, but I did put 70 weight in them. It still just feels like nothing when it hits the ground. You know, sitting here, it does feel good. It feels like it has decent resistance. Definitely needs heavier oil in the back. The front feels okay, but this thing does just blah blah every time you land a jump. So with that being said, it flies excellent. One of the best jumping RCs I've ever owned. But the landings, the suspension, the shocks are not up to par for how good this thing flies. So let's just we'll just roll with that and go into some pros and cons about this truck. So one of the hugest pros about this truck is the price point. This is a 1/6 scale 4-wheel drive monster truck or truggy, whatever you want to call it. 360 bucks. That is just incredible. Incredible. You know, I wish more companies gave you more breathing room like that, because you know, you can buy this thing and not have to stress about putting a little bit more money into it. Unlike some, you know, RCs that are sold today, that you buy them at a huge price point and they instantly need stuff. I will use the Sin Colossus XT as an example, or Reaper. wherever you live in the world. Here in the United States, it's called the XT. So the Sin Colossus is an amazing truck. I absolutely loved every minute of having that truck, but it does have huge issues right out of the box that you have to address almost immediately. The servo that comes with that thing is absolute garbage. The suspension, a lot like this thing, has to be tuned. The suspension on that thing is horrible, as well as it is with this thing. The difference being that the Sin Colossus cost $300 more than this truck. So that's a huge thing, to have a truck that costs that much more. Same scale. They're both considered to be about 7th, maybe 6th scale, depending on who you're talking to. But they're both in the same scale range. They're both about the same size. The Sin Colossus is definitely heavier, but you know, with that breathing room you get with this truck's purchase price is just absolutely phenomenal in my eyes. I mean, that is one huge reason why I actually picked this thing up, because the price point is so, you know, it is so legit. It's just awesome. I have to applaud Redcat for that. You guys selling this truck for $360, that's amazing, because a brushless four-wheel drive Ruckus, 110 scale, is $360. So that is a huge pro for me, probably the biggest pro about this truck. Now, one of the cons would be that parts, Redcat parts are expensive. So if you do have issues with this truck, you're going to have to shell out a little bit of extra money for parts. I'm not sure if I would call it a con, but another con in my book, this being a big, heavy four-wheel drive vehicle, is that it only comes 4S capable. Not to say that the system they put in this is garbage. I mean, it's waterproof, 80 amp speed control, a decent size motor. I mean, in a smaller vehicle, that would be plenty. But in a vehicle this big, this heavy, with four-wheel drive, with tires this size, 4S leaves a lot to be desired. But at the same point I just made, with the $360 price tag of this thing, you have room to improve. So another positive, besides, you know, how it flies through the air and the price point, is just the all-around, you know, structure of this truck. I mean, we'll pull the top off. The layout, the freaking layout of this truck is so amazingly simple that this makes for one of the easiest RCs that I've ever had to work on. Like I said, I did tune the center and front diff. I left the rear diff alone. I did get in there to make sure the diff was okay. The diffs are actually really, really, really good looking. The gears and everything, they look really good. They mesh well. I'm just, you know, I'm impressed with how simple but functional the layout is of this. So once again, I have to applaud Redcat. Redcat, you guys did an awesome job designing this vehicle. You know, another con I would say would have to go back to the shocks. The shocks are just terrible, but at the same point, it's $360, guys. So I mean, you do have room to breathe, and you can, I'm sure you can find shocks to plug in here that would be much better than these. And another thing is, everything is set up double shear. So the shocks are captured on the shock tower and inside the A-arm. So that is another positive, especially over the Sin Colossus. They were set up single shear, top and bottom, and that was one of the problems. The bottom of the shocks would pop off the A-arms, so you had to run washers to stop that from happening. I would say I don't know if I would call it a con. I'm going to call it a con. I don't know how it would be for most people. If you leave the 4S system in this thing and you're happy with it, kudos. But I would have liked to see a steel spur gear on the center diff. I'm a fan of steel spur gears. You don't have to worry about them unless something crazy happens, like it chews up one of your wires and it arcs, and ends up melting it, or like, just something crazy like that happening. But outside of that, I would have liked to see a steel spur gear. But again, with the price point, that is just a huge thing for me. It does come with aluminum steering knuckles in the front. Everything's adjustable. Like I said, this thing is just set up. It's got this nice, really nice flat pan, thick aluminum chassis. One negative, I'm going to say, one con also, is I don't like this. I don't like how they extended this plate out with this plastic piece. I haven't had any problems with it to date, but that just seems like a real weak point to me. But I haven't had any problems with it thus far. One more con about this truck is going to be the tires. The tires are okay until you put some actual power in this thing. Once you put power in this thing, these tires just fall apart. It restricts you in what speeds you can hit. Once you actually have power, you realize that they don't get very good traction at all. I have a really hard time turning under power with these tires. So the tires are going to be a con. And another thing about these tires is how they have these rolled in beads. So see that? See how the tire rolls in behind there? I mean, that just makes them balloon like crazy because they have that extra. And it's the same on the inside where it rolls in, like what I'm talking about is how the tire rolls in behind the actual wheel here, the actual rim. It rolls in behind there and it's glued inside. And it's like that on this side as well. So those tires tend to just pull like that under power. Outside of that, I have nothing else negative to say about this truck. So that's going to bring it to my thoughts. My thoughts about this truck initially were, it's a Redcat. I had a horrible experience with the Terremoto V2. When I got this thing, I saw the same shocks on here. The same style setup, upper A-arms, and I just kind of almost dismissed this truck immediately. And then I drove it, didn't have much power, it left a whole lot to be desired, especially for a truck this big. So I just said, screw it, basically. I threw a 6S capable ESC in here. I threw that insanely powerful Leopard Hobby motor in here, the 4082 and 2000 kV, I do believe. Yes, the 4082 2000 kV motor in here, and I thought it was just going to blow this thing to pieces. It hasn't. It has taken it. I had that one mishap where the wires got really hot and came unsoldered. I have corrected that problem by, instead of using extensions, I just moved the ESC forward so it's even more centered now, and I have it just hooked up straight to the motor. That way the wires aren't going to get all hot and everything, because the ESC wasn't hot, the motor wasn't even hot at all, but those wires were frying hot, and that's because of the transfer of power from the ESC to the motor. The longer the wire, the more heat you're going to get. So by shortening up the wires, it takes away a lot of resistance, and your end result is less heat, basically. But I am going to give this thing a huge thumbs up, guys. I can't bash on this thing too hard, outside of a couple small flaws. Like, this truck is just awesome. I absolutely love this truck. The shredder is, I am just happy with this truck. I really am. So much so that I am going to keep this thing. I am literally not going to get rid of this thing. I am going to keep this thing. With the setup I've got in it, I'm going to run it on 4S, so you will see it on the channel still. You know, I'll take it out bashing. I'm going to take it to the skate park, do all that stuff. I will probably investigate and try and find a set of shocks that I can put on here that will be better. I will tinker with these shocks a little bit more. You know, I'll try 90 weight, I think. Probably either 90 or 100 weight in them. That might help a little bit. But yeah, that's my thoughts, guys. I give this thing an A+. The price point is awesome. The room to grow is awesome. You know, just, you're not going to have huge problems with this. I mean, apart from having an astronomical, like, hardcore crash or something like that, which would be hard to do because this truck flies so nice. I mean, this thing is just good. It's a good RC out of the box. You know, for a lot of people, the stock 4S system might even be enough. You know, I'm just kind of like a power freak. I like to have that extra power. Even if I don't need it, I like to have it for when I want it. And now on 4S, this thing will do backflips. You know, I can't remember what the speed was on 4S, but it's up there. You know, this thing, you could even slam it down and make an awesome, you know, like drag race truck out of this thing. It's got 4-wheel drive. You know, it does it have droop screws? No, it doesn't have droop screws, but it does have a place for droop screws. So you can put droop screws in this, slam this thing down, and just make it a speed run freak. And I guarantee you this thing will do awesome at that because of how it's designed. It's got a nice long wheelbase. You know, it's nice and low to the ground already. This thing is a win, guys. I'm gonna stop bragging on it right now because I'm sure you guys don't want to hear me just go over and over and over the same stuff. But this is a huge win for Redcat. Has my 100% seal of approval. You know, it does have a few flaws, but the price point makes it worth every penny. Every penny is worth it in my eyes. All right, guys, so that's going to be it for this review and my thoughts video. Please give it the old thumbs up if you like, thumbs down if you didn't. Check out the description if you want to get into any ongoing or upcoming raffles. I may not be getting rid of this, but I am going to have like RC sale coming up. I'm starting to get quite a bit of RCs. I need to get rid of some to make room for new ones. So I will be posting a video here pretty soon showing you guys which RCs I'm going to go ahead and sell and give you guys the opportunity to pick those up. Alright guys, this is Gary from Killer Off-Road Hobby saying get out there, get an RC, go have some fun, and we'll see you next time. Peace!